one of the things I'm interested in with the blog is to educate people about how Barca plays, to kind of influence and inspire people to play the kind of beautiful game of soccer that they play. So I'm curious to know if you got to see any training sessions that Barca did, and if you did, how would you describe the way they train?
Yeah, I've gone to training sessions. We went. I think we shot one training session on this trip, filming, and it's really interesting. I mean, I suppose if you'd heard about total football and the Cruyffian football. So basically, Barcelona had a really big Dutch influence, and that's based on Cruyff. And they have had loads of Dutch players throughout the 90s and early 2000s, from Overmars to Trezeguet. I mean, all these loads of Dutch players over the years. And now would say they still have that similar style, but Rijkaard put a twist on it, and then I think Pep Guardiola even put more of a twist on it. But I would say, especially from playing here, it's a really possession game. It's a game where, from me growing up learning soccer, the basics in the United States, I'd say the part that we're lacking is it's a game that's played a lot more with the head, not physically headers, but it's a thinking game. And when I played over there, that was one of the things that coaches liked at some points, that I was a runner. I'd run, but at the same time, they would just be like, hey, take it easy. You don't. Run when you need to, and they liked me because I was able to, because I was always giving the effort, because I think I lacked the skill a little bit because I hadn't been growing up playing there. I mean, I learned quick, but yeah, I'd say that they played more of a mental game, and I think that's because they know the game better.
And so when you witnessed them training, what were some of the things that they were doing that were interesting to you in terms of their method of training?
I mean, one training, for an example, that I saw was a strikers training, and I think it was after a game, so it wasn't a mandatory training, so it wasn't their whole squad there. But I remember seeing a training session, and just the things. I mean, I guess this is just most professional football teams have the resources to do this, but they have these little plastic swimming pools full of balls in a big old pyramid, and so a player will work on a strike. The same strike. Maybe it be you have a trainer that'll chip the ball to their chest, and they'll just be chesting it down, turning, and shooting. And they'll work on that same strike, and they'll shoot 200, or I don't mean that 200, 300 times, and so that just gets programmed into their head. But just in terms of, regular Barca trainings, I think everything was generally restricted in terms of touches. They start with they start with a 2-touch, and then they'll even do a lot of little small-sided. Well, everything is done in a small grid, so they make it very tight spaces. So then when you go to the pitch in a match, you feel like you have so much more time. And I also remember that from when I was playing there, but a lot of times, we'd start possession in the small box of the goalkeeper, the small box, and then they take it out, and it just kind of be like a little one-touch, kind of hectic, and then they take it out to the 18 box, and just always playing with restricted amount of space and restricted touches to be able to teach yourself to play quick, get the ball received, know where the ball is going, 2 passes after, know what you're going to do before you get the ball, and know where it's going to go after you play it. And I guess just movement, and I think Guardiola is one of Pep's. I think one of his things he really focuses on is angles and triangles, and he's a workaholic. I mean, the guy, I think, has been known for. I think there's rumors that his wife has had to go to the facilities to take him home because he hasn't. Will be there till 1 o'clock, 2 in the morning, studying opponents, and just I don't know. Is that sort of what you're looking for? I mean,
totally. No, that's a great look into it. I'm glad that you were able to see that too. Just in other words, that you weren't only able to see the game, but you could kind of peek behind the curtain that led up to the game to see how they actually do that. And do you remember when you were a kid that same kind of philosophy was in play too?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things I always noticed. Like when I was training we had before when I was going into the locker room to suit up for my trainings, the little guys were on before me, like the little guys, like 3 and 4 year olds. And I mean, they're just so small; they're just learning it. But I'd say even a little bit older than them, they start to play that same way, and it's a lot slower, and they're not as strong, and they can't shoot from as far. But it's that same way where they already are able to. I mean, and until like the 11 and 12 year olds, I mean, I feel like they really work on trying to. But that's just because the level over there is just all around so much more advanced. And that's also because most here, we grew up playing t-ball and baseball and t-ball and basketball and
Right.
all the sports, and that's kind of the American culture. And I think there's a lot of advantages to that as well. But it's generally not like that over there. I mean, usually you do one thing and focus on that. And so,
Well, what's fascinating about what you said was, I mean, and I've obviously heard this, is that their philosophy starts at a young age and then continues, but it seems like it's something that's adhered to. In other words, no one kind of strays from it, and no matter what you're affiliated with in terms of this Barca system, it seems that everyone is doing the same thing. And obviously, if everyone's doing the same thing, it's like communicating. If you know a certain language and someone else knows that language, you're going to be able to communicate with that person. So I really find that interesting that they really got this going in a really organized way.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then if you jump more to actual the Barcelona, the Cantera, the youth system, it's we saw when we were on the site in the Ciudad Deportivo, their sports city where Barca trains. You see the little guys all in their Barca gear, and they're being coached by young players who or young coaches, and I'd say it's a similar always trying to have a competitive atmosphere and game situations and keeping them going. But I mean, that's I'd say probably one of the top youth systems in the world. I think there's other, like Ajax, I think has a pretty famous youth system, but yeah, they have the resources to be able to get the best kids as well. And but yeah, I think that just even a step back from where you're not in Barcelona, it's probably a similar atmosphere where they're being trained to play a certain style that they grow up just developing and improving. And in Barcelona, I mean, everything in the youth system, they play the same formation as the first team. They play the same. I mean, the same style. They try to teach the same style, and I think that's great. I think once in a while, maybe it's not great for some kids if they don't fit in that category, because there's different types of game. There's different styles of the game, but it is. I feel like we are seeing teams try to play that style more and more. Even in the Premier League, which I think has that reputation of being more of a direct game, I think is they're playing more possession. I mean, Spanish players, if you're taking a step back and taking a look at Spanish football in general, are starting to become really successful in the English Premier League, using their style and incorporating it into a more direct game, but still possession. I mean, I was just right before you called me, I was checking out the Chelsea Benfica highlights from yesterday, and that kid Mata from Valencia is doing great.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah,